Hi, everyone. My name is Anna McCollum. I'm here with Sumesh Balakrishnan. We're in the product management team for Enterprise Manager. And thanks for joining our session today on Zero Downtime Monitoring in EM24. For our agenda, we're going to start with an overview of Enterprise Manager monitoring. Then we're going to talk about the Zero Downtime or ZDT monitoring service. This is a new service we're introducing in EM24 AI. Sumesh is going to talk about the ZDT patching that is necessary to enable the monitoring service to perform its functionality. And then we'll end up with a demo that we pre-recorded earlier. So let's start with an overview of Enterprise Manager monitoring in terms of the monitoring capabilities that it can provide even during unplanned and planned periods of time. Many customers, perhaps such as yourselves, rely on Enterprise Manager for monitoring your mission-critical targets. These are targets that need to be monitored all the time, basically, 24/7 basis. To mitigate against unplanned downtime, you can configure Enterprise Manager for high availability. For example, if you set up multiple OMSs, that means in case an OMS server crashes, then you have the remaining OMS servers to be able to continue the monitoring capability offered by Enterprise Manager. Now, for planned downtime, when you bring EM down for a planned maintenance, such as to uptake a release update, you can use another solution called Always On Monitoring, AOM. This is another application that we offer, and this provides visibility into critical alerts that you can use while EM is under that planned downtime. This application can receive availability, metric alerts, and metric errors from the agents that continue to monitor your targets, and you can configure it to send email notifications to the downtime contacts that you specify. Now, customers who are using AOM have asked us for additional functionality. They said, well, this is good, but it's not enough. They've asked us to also provide all of the full functionality that they have in incident rules, where they can designate for certain groups of targets, different types of recipients based on the different targets. They've also asked that we continue to support, during this planned maintenance period, the other notification methods, such as OS commands, SNMP traps. And they also want us to continue to enable all of our ticketing and event connector features, which open tickets to third-party systems such as ServiceNow, or send events to external event systems such as Microsoft SCOM. We're addressing these requirements in EM24 AI with the ZDT or Zero Downtime Monitoring service. With this service, all of the monitoring capabilities that you expect EM to have will continue to work uninterrupted even during planned maintenance periods. So what does that mean? That means that that alerts will continue to be raised by your agents and will be received by the ZDT monitoring service, and it will be responsible for all the processing that happens afterwards. This includes honoring all of the actions and notifications that you have in incident rules. In your incident rule sets, you probably specify a subset of targets, perhaps groups of targets for which you have different notification recipients, based on the type of target that will continue to be honored. Also within your incident rules, you may have event compression policies that are enabled using event compression policies, or you might have rule level event compression rules in the logic of your incident rules. All of these will continue to be honored. If you set incident lifecycle properties, perhaps you set the owner of the incident, or perhaps you set the resolution status, or set the escalation flag, et cetera, et cetera. Those will continue to be honored, as well as sending of all of the notifications using the different methods, email, SNMP traps, OS command, webhooks, and Slack. And also, if you're using the lifecycle status property on your target to designate its use, for example, you might set these targets as mission critical and the other targets as test targets, then in case of heavy load, what Enterprise Manager does, it prioritizes the processing and handling of these events based on the lifecycle property of its targets. So events from the mission critical targets will be prioritized higher than targets that have the life cycle status at the test. So that type of prioritization will continue to work as well. Corrective actions, opening tickets using ticketing connectors to ServiceNow, Jira, and PagerDuty, as well as sending events using the event connectors to external systems such as Microsoft SCOM and Tivoli Netco, right? So you see that the payload of ZDT monitoring, you can see that even during planned downtime, that the monitoring, alerting, and notifications will continue uninterrupted even when you have to uptake a planned RU uptake in EM24 AI. Now, let's walk through some examples to kind of give you more details on how this works. Let's first talk about monitoring continuity throughout EM upgrades. And let's start with EM 13.5. Let's say you're at EM 13.5 and you're using this to create incidents based on the alerts that the agents are raising and detecting, detecting and raising. Then use EM 13.5 to perhaps create an incident, open a ticket, and emails and SNMP traps, etc. Then you decide to upgrade from EM 13.5 to EM 24. During the upgrade, EM is unavailable, and this is where you can use always-on monitoring to continue to receive those alerts from the agents and then send email for the downtime contacts that you've configured in AOM. Once the upgrade is complete, now you're at EM 24 AI. Here you now have the ZDT monitoring service, which is now responsible for all of those actions such as creating incidents, opening tickets, sending emails, sending traps, et cetera. And let's say you decide to uptake a release update, and during that time, when you are updating from EM24, the base release EM24 RU1, EM will go into planned maintenance, but ZDT monitoring service is now available, and it can continue to work uninterrupted. It can continue to create incidents for events or alerts sent by the agent, open tickets, and emails, and SMP trap, et cetera. And once the update is complete, monitoring service continues to work as well. Okay, so if you're, again, this is kind of like the big picture. If you are planning to upgrade from 13.5 to EM24, ZDT monitoring is not yet available, so continue to use AOM. But once you are at EM24 and you want to uptake the future RU, this is where you can then use ZDT monitoring service. Now let's walk through an example of how you can achieve alert continuity with EM24 AI. Again, assuming that you're ready at EM24. So to recap, our scenario is you're at EM24 with ZDT monitoring. And let's say there is a warning alert that is detected by the agent. It is sent to EM24, specifically to the ZDT monitoring service. And then based on the rules you've configured, it might result in opening a ticket at warning severity, opening an incident at warning severity, and also perhaps opening a ticket. Then an RU update comes along and you plan to update it to the next RU. Let me move my slides. Oops, hold on. Try that again. There. Okay, so during the update of the RU, if there is a change in severity, such as what we have here, it changed from warning severity to critical severity, then even while EM is under planned maintenance, ZDT monitoring can receive that critical alert severity, which results in an update of the incident severity. And also, we will send that severity update to the ticketing system, so that update is correspondingly propagated to your ticketing system. Okay. Now, continuing on, let's say the update is complete. Now you're at EM24 RU1. Let's say that alert severity has cleared. So that severity is sent from the agent to ZDT monitoring. It will now, then result in updating of the incident, which will close the incident, and also send that clear to the ticketing system, which results in the ticketing close, right? So what this illustrates is an example of how we can maintain the alert life cycle of an alert and maintain that even if that involves a period of time when EM is unavailable or under planned maintenance. and see how ZDT monitoring continues to honor and keep that life cycle, current throughout the EM updates. Let me walk you through another scenario with ZDT monitoring service. Okay, so we start with EM 24, and let's say you update to 24 RU1, and during this update, you receive a fatal alert. And ZDT monitoring service will receive the fatal alert, which could result in opening of an incident and also opening of a ticket as well. Let's say later on, the update is complete, and now your EM 24 RU1, let's say that, the issue has been resolved, resulting in a clear severity. That clear severity is sent from the agent to ZDT monitoring service, which results in the incident closed and also closing the ticket. So this is another scenario how we can maintain alert continuity with EM 24 ZDT monitoring service. And this specific example is that the alert triggered during the planned maintenance period, but you see how that ZDT monitoring can, act on that new alert and maintain its life cycle throughout the process. Okay, so let me talk about what you'd expect to see with our initial phase of ZDT monitoring. This is available with the base release of EM 24 AI. First, what type of events do we support? As you know, EM has a rich set of different subsystems, and there are different event types that correspond to different subsystems. In our initial phase, we'll support all the monitoring related event types. This means a target availability event type, the up-down event types, including agent unreachable. We'll support metric alerts and also metric collection errors. From the perspective of incident rule actions and notifications, all of these will be supported. Priority processing based on lifecycle status, event compression, whether that's using event compression policies or event compression logic that is embedded inside your incident rule set. These notification methods, email, SNMP traps, OS command, webhooks, and Slack, as well as ticketing and event connectors. Blackouts in progress will be honored. What that means is, let's say you had a blackout that began before the maintenance period started, and let's say it ends in the middle of the EM maintenance period. So what you expect to happen is when the blackout ends, then monitoring resumes. And that's exactly what happens, right? The blackout will end, monitoring resumes. If there's any alerts detected by the agent, it will, detect that, raise that, send that to ZDT monitoring for all of the downstream notifications. So you can continue to expect, that type of monitoring and alerting to continue, even during ZDT monitoring. Now, if you need to create new blackouts during the EM maintenance period itself, then you can do that using the agent's EMCTL command line utility. That's the only blackouts that will be honored during the maintenance period, but we'll address that in the future phases to support other mechanisms as well, or methods as well. For corrective actions, this is not in our phase one. If a corrective action did need to trigger and this happened during the maintenance period, then we will provide an annotation indicating that the corrective action was skipped because EM was under maintenance. But then after EM maintenance is complete, at that point, assuming the alert severity is open, then the corrective action will be executed at that time. So let me walk through an example of what I mean by this, right? So here with EM 24 with ZDT monitoring, and we want to uptake an RU, and so EM goes under planned maintenance. And let's say at this time there is a fatal event, target down event, which results in an incident being created and a ticket being opened. Then the update is complete. Now EM is now at EM 24 RU1 and fully available. Now, if there was a corrective action that was supposed to be executed for this particular alert, then assuming that alert severity is still open, at that time, the corrective action will be executed, okay? And once it's executed, that could probably result in the alert eventually being clear, resulting in the clear severity, which will then be processed by ZDT monitoring, resulting in closing of the incident as well as closing of the ticket. Okay. Okay. Let me talk about the other features related to ZDT monitoring that will be made available in future RUs of EM 24 AI. The first is repository-based availability. So there's some type of targets whose availability is based on the availability status of its members. For example, a rack database. While you'll be notified of the availability status of individual rack instances, the computation of the rack cluster database itself is a repository-based availability mechanism. And so this is something that we're currently working on and will be available in future RUs. Corrective actions, as I mentioned, this is something that will be available in future RUs. Support for processing of other event types, such as events from the job system, compliance events, user-reported events. These are scheduled for future RUs. Access to the UI to perhaps access, incident manager or dynamic runbooks, or drill down to other parts of the console from, let's say you get an email notification at the time of planned maintenance. You will get a message when you try to access the console saying EM is under planned maintenance. But in the future, we will plan to make certain pages of Enterprise Manager also available to you during the planned maintenance. But that will occur in the future RU. And then finally, if you need to schedule during the planned maintenance period new blackouts, perhaps via the UI CLI or REST API, again, that's planned for a future RU. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sumesh, who's going to talk about ZDT patching.
Yeah, so I'll talk about the ZDT patching, which we introduced in 24.1. And we also have the first release update available on top of 24.1 for customers to try out the ZDT patching. So ZDT patching, when we started with the re-architecture in 24.1, the main goal for us is to enable customers with zero downtime monitoring during the RU updates. So that we want to achieve through the ZDT patching, so that when you uptake an RU on top of 24.1, at least we will be able to provide you with the continuous monitoring, whatever Anna talked about using the monitoring service, and that will be orchestrated through this ZDT patching. So ZDT patching is the way for you if you're looking to keep up the monitoring during the maintenance window. Then ZDT patching along with the monitoring service will help you to keep the monitoring always up and running during the maintenance window. So RU is one of the vehicles for us to release new features and bug fixes, right? So ZDT patching will help you to keep up with the latest release updates, so that if you're looking for any new features in a particular RU, you don't need to wait for the downtime or maintenance period to come. You can just uptake on the 24.1 environment, because now that you don't need to really take a downtime for patching the Enterprise Manager. So it brings in the agility for you to do a continuous update based on your needs. And also it provides you with the monitoring insights. So that's what Anna talked about. The monitoring service is going to help you with serving you with all the alerts, notifications, all the artifacts, whatever she talked about, so that you don't go blind during the maintenance window. And the last thing is about we have drastically decreased the downtime, which means you will have the continuous monitoring. Only thing is there will be a small console access will not be there for a certain period of time. But outside of that, all your alerts, even processing notifications, will continue to work during the maintenance window. So what it takes for you to adopt ZDT patching in 24.1. So it takes only 4 simple steps. The first one is to analyze the patch, and then the second one is deploy. And then once the deploy is complete, then you can do the update. And once the update is complete, then you can verify whether the patches are deployed on all the OMSs or not. So at a very high level, it helps you to keep up the monitoring always on, so that you don't need to worry about the maintenance window bringing down your complete OMS, where you will not lose any of the monitoring insights during the patching window. And it will also help you to adopt the release updates on a frequent basis based on your needs and then your business requirements. We have also the patch automation enabled for patching multi-OMS systems, so that you don't need to go and manually patch the additional OMSs. So we will take care of patching the additional OMSs through the automation scripts. through job system that we have enabled for patching the multi-OMS systems. So at a very high level, what it takes or what is underneath the ZDD patching. So like I said, the first thing is about the analyze. So this analyze is an online step. You don't need to really bring down the OMS to run the analyze. So this analyze, we recommend the customers to run for any given patch to make sure the patch is not having, when the analyze runs, it can review your environment. Basically, it's a kind of a health check that it is doing to make sure there are no conflicting patches in your environment. So it can run and give you the report whether it is clean or you're good to go with the next step. So once the analysis come, and we also recommend you to take backups because it's always, even in the patch README file, we recommend customers to take the backup of the repository also on the OMS side to make sure in case of any issues, you can just revert back and then bring up your old environment. And then once the analysis is done, the second step is deploy. So here also is an online step. So this is something where you can run it online while the EM is up and running. You will have the console access. So where we go and deploy the patch binaries, and then inside the repository database, we create edition and we load all our SQLs in the new edition. And then once the deploy is complete, then you can run the status to see what is pending as part of the patch deployment. So this is kind of a model where you can do like deploy on Tuesday and then run the update on weekends, because this deploy is an online operation, and administrators and all the administrators in the organization will have the EM console access so that they can monitor the targets and so on. But the next step is the update. So when the update is executed behind the scene at a very high level, we divide the OMSs into batches. So one of the basic requirements for the ZDD patching is to have a multi-OMS system. So that's a very basic requirement for the ZDD. If you want to patch and get the monitoring in place during the maintenance window, then you need to have at least multi-OMS system. So that's the basic requirements. So once you have a multi-OMS system, then during the update phase, we divide the OMSs into batches. And we submit basically we shut down the OMSs in batches and run the patch updates. So we will internally take care of batching the OMSs and we run it. But for the end customer or the EM administrator who is executing the patch, for him, it will be just a patch execution where we run a lot of steps and then we internally stop the OMS, and then we make sure we keep one of the monitoring service or one of the OMS instance always up and running so that it can serve with the notifications and alerts during the maintenance window. And in the whole process, we don't leave the monitoring service unpatched. What we will do is once the core OMSs in batch one are up and running along with the monitoring service, then we switch over to that monitoring service, and then we go and patch the monitoring service that was up and running during the maintenance window or during the period when patch one was in maintenance time. So that's how we will make sure at least the monitoring service and one of the OMS node is up and running during the time to serve you with all the notifications and alerts. So in this process, what happens is there's a small glitch that your UI console will not be accessible. Say, for example, when an EM administrator is running the update operation, so if there is an alert got triggered and the DBA got an alert, so he will see the alert in his email, and this alert will basically contain some links so that he can just click on that and it will take him to the respective the UI page. But during the update, maybe in RU1, what happens is when you click on the link will take you to the EM login, but the EM login screen will show that the console is temporarily unavailable, and we will ask him to try after some time. So that is because the UI is not yet ready, but the UI will also be enabled in the future RU. But that's the small gap that you will see that the console will be unavailable for that particular time. But outside of that, whatever the event processing alert, everything gets processed through the monitoring service. So only the UI will be temporarily unavailable. And once the update operation is complete, then all the OMSs will be up. Then you will be back online, and you will have the UI access, and you can verify and monitor all your targets. And the last step is about the verification, which is important because since if there are multiple OMSs, we go and submit a job to patch all the additional OMSs. So please ensure that all the additional OMSs are patched, because we have seen sometimes that um, people, when customers would have not noticed that what happened to the multi-OMS job, right, or multi-OMS patching job. So ensure that you verify the patch that got successfully applied on the primary OMS, and also you go and verify the patch that got applied on the additional OMS instances. So that's the last step. So this is at a very high level. Uh, if you're looking to patch using ZDT, this is what we do behind the scene when you run the patching using the ZDT patching method. And throughout this entire process, the EM is up and running. Only during the update, the console access will be a little bit unavailable, but outside of that, all your critical monitoring, alerting will get processed during the patching window using the monitoring service. So, and we also kept the same command, but if you remember in 13.5, we introduced this rapid platform update, and there also we have used the similar commands like deploy, update, right? So we are keeping the same commands in 24.1. It's just that we have removed the rapid platform update in 24.1 because there is no, I mean, you don't need near zero downtime, because in 24.1 we are providing the zero downtime monitoring capability. So that's why we removed this rapid platform update, but we have kept the same command for the customers to execute the patching in ZDT mode. So moving on to the next, we'll do a demo to show you how this monitoring service will work and process all the alerts during the ZDT patching.
Show you a demo that Sumesh and I recorded earlier to show you both the ZDT patching and ZDT monitoring in action. But let me just give you the background for the demo. In this demo, we have an EM24 site with 2 OMS servers. Again, we need at least 2 OMS servers for ZDT monitoring. In this site, we've created or we set up an incident rule set that applies to our production group. And in this rule set, we have a first rule that says if there is a target down event, create an incident. And then the second rule is for this incident, send email and open a PagerDuty ticket. So the demo workflow, you'll see, we'll start with the OMS patching procedure. We'll confirm that ZDT monitoring continues to be available, and then we'll create an incident based on a target down event, and we'll also show that we can continue to receive notifications for this incident, okay? So that's background of the demo, and let me go ahead and start it.
So now let's go to the demo and execute the patch. So here, this is a multi-OMS environment where you see the primary OMS on the left and the additional OMS is running on the right side. And on the primary OMS, I've already completed the deploy phase. So as highlighted, the deploy is already completed. Now it is waiting for me to execute the update operation. So let me go and run the update. So I'm running the OMS patcher update command, and it will ask for the basic validations like the WebLogic credentials. And once the WebLogic credentials are passed, then it will ask for the database user credential, which is sys. So I'm patching this system as sys user. So once the password is validated, it will go and execute some of the component checks as part of the patch on the primary OMS. And then it does some prerequisite checks for all the sub-patches. So while this is continuing, on the right side, you can see that the additional OMS is still up and running. And on the primary OMS, on the left side, you can see it is doing some actions on the primary OMS. So currently the patch is in process on the primary OMS. It is now going and applying all the sub-patches that are inside the patch. So while this is going on the additional OMS, you can still see the additional OMS is up and running. So the primary OMS is still under the patching session. The sub-patches are getting applied on the primary OMS. but the additional OMS instance, as you can see on the right, it is still up and running. So on the primary OMS, it is doing activities like starting the admin server, and then it is doing some bunch of activities on the primary OMS system. So while this is all still going, you can see that on the right, it is keeping the additional OMS up and running. So it is setting some context on the primary OMS. So it is currently running some executions on the primary OMS, and then it will go and check for the job status. And here you can see until this time the primary OMS is up and running, but now when I go and check for the status, you will clearly see that the OMS is actually down, but the ZDT service, which is the monitoring service, is up and running.
Continuing on with the demo, if a user tries to access the EM console at this time, they'll see the message that Enterprise Manager is under planned maintenance, and monitoring, incidents, and notifications will continue to work. Now let's generate a target down incident. To do this, let's stop the listener. And let's also reconfirm that the listener has indeed stopped. Soon the agent will detect this and generate a fatal event. Now let's open up our email client, shown on the left, and wait for the email on listener down to appear. Let's also open up the PagerDuty UI on the right and wait for the ticket to be created. Now we see the email for the listener down incident. Opening the email, we see the expected information, including listener name, the host that it's on, when the incident was triggered, the message, incident ID, etc. Now, if I try to click on the link in this email, I would have seen the EM console message that we showed earlier, noting that EM is under maintenance and monitoring and notifications continue. Let's continue to keep an eye on the PagerDuty UI. Now we see the PagerDuty ticket come in for listener down. Clicking on the ticket, here we see the status, when it was opened, and then we can scroll down to see more details. And here we see information about the listener down incident that was created. Okay, so that was a short demo, but hopefully it gives you an idea of how you can, with ZDT patching and monitoring, continue to receive alerts and have these notifications sent for them even during plant maintenance. So to sum, with ZDT monitoring, you can see how you can achieve monitoring continuity, especially for your mission critical targets, how you'll get an uninterrupted monitoring alerting and alerting even during planned maintenance periods, because we continue to honor all of your notifications that you've set up. You'll be able to continue to respond quicker to those, or quickly to those incidents, and also hopefully maximize uptimes of your monitored targets. At this point, we'd like to go over some common questions that we've received from customers, and we thought that these are questions that you might also be asking. So let me just go through them. The first, is there an extra license cost to use ZDT monitoring? The answer is no. The ZDT monitoring service itself is part of the EM24 AI platform. However, the functionality or the features that it provides, for example, notifications, that has or continues to be part of a license pack based on the target type on which those notifications are being sent. So for example, if the notification is on a database, then you would need the DB diagnostics pack as an example. Number two, is there an extra setup required to enable ZDT monitoring? The answer is no. The main requirement really is to have at least 2 OMS servers in your EM24 AI deployment in order to do, in order to have, for ZDT patching, in order for ZDT monitoring to continue to work. The third question, how does ZDT monitoring service itself get patched? This was covered by Sumesh, but Sumesh, do you want to recap this part? How does ZDT monitoring service get patched?
Yeah, sure. Now, so like I said in the ZDT patching, so we keep the ZDT monitoring service in one of the additional OMS or in the batch. When we divide the OMSs into batches, we make sure the monitoring service in one of the batches is always up and running. So once the batch one is completely patched, then we bring up the batch one where it will include the OMS and the monitoring service. And then we go and patch the other batch, which contains the monitoring service. And that is the monitoring service that was serving during the maintenance window. So basically, we don't leave the monitoring service unpatched. So we will make sure all the, because the monitoring service is deployed on each of the OMS nodes. So we'll make sure we will go and patch the monitoring service that is running across the OMSs.
Okay, thanks, Dinesh. Next question, can I use ZDT monitoring during my upgrade from 13.5 to EM24 AI? The answer is no. ZDT monitoring is a feature in EM24 AI. So you can use this once you're at EM24 AI for future EM24 AI RU upgrades. But when upgrading from 13.5 to 24 AI and you need that monitoring visibility, then you can use always on monitoring or AOM. And then finally, do I still need to use AOM or always on monitoring if you're using ZDT monitoring? The answer is no. Once you're at 24 AI and if you're using ZDT monitoring to provide that monitoring visibility during RU updates, then you no longer need to use AOM. Okay. So that concludes our presentation. Here are a list of some additional resources, our link to our main webpage, our videos, our blogs, and the documentation for zero downtime patching. And
okay, if there are no more questions, that concludes our call for today. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great rest of your day.